So, next up are some miscellaneous general releases here. The Three Caballeros, 1988 video release. As you can see, the packaging is very similar to the classics releases. Donald Duck is even in the spine, along with Mary Poppins and Scrooge McDuck here. But these are not classics editions. These are standalone Walt Disney Home Video releases that open with the standard 1986 Walt Disney Home Video logo. Disney did this for Three Caballeros, even though by 1988 it counted as part of the animated features canon that they fully established in 1985. It was actually established before that in 1981, but then they modified it in 85. Further modifications were made to it in 2008, so the one that you know today is basically the 85 canon, but with one minor little fix. Mary Poppins, of course, from the same period. These have a standard Walt Disney's heading, being Walt-era films. DuckTales, the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp, by contrast, it just says Walt Disney Home Video. But the cover properly says Disney Movie Tunes Presents. Of course, that's the studio that made DuckTales, the movie Treasure of the Lost Lamp, and a Goofy movie, and all the direct-to-video Disney sequels, too. But they're all very reminiscent of the classics titles in their packaging, and probably a lot of the same artists, too. So, with that out of the way now, we can move on to the line that succeeded, it's getting caught there, that succeeded the classics line. That was the Walt Disney Masterpiece Collection, which started with Snow White and reissues of titles that were already available, both classics editions and not classics editions, which I will demonstrate in a second. Let's just put these back. So, Dumbo, perfect example. This was one of the first titles in the Masterpiece Collection that came out the same day as Snow White, and in 1994, of course, and the cover is pretty much the same as the 1989 cover, but with some modifications so it fits the new frame. And that's the same as several of the other original, first ever Masterpiece Collection releases. Bambi came to the Masterpiece Collection in 1997. Three Caballeros, Masterpiece Collection Edition, reuses the 88 cover artwork, of course, with modifications. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, interestingly, was the last full-blown Walt Disney Masterpiece Collection release. The 1999 release of Pinocchio and the 1999 release of The Great Mouse Detective were originally going to be Masterpiece editions. As far as I know, early copies of Pinocchio, of that release of Pinocchio, open with the Masterpiece Collection logo. I think that might be true of The Great Mouse Detective as well. Here we have the 1995 VHS of Cinderella, of course, in the Masterpiece Collection. Almost all the films that were released as Classics Edition were released as Masterpiece Editions. Now, Alice in Wonderland is an exception to the 1994 Masterpiece releases in that the cover is not a repeat of the cover from 1986, which Disney had been using ever since its first Classics release. This artwork actually came from a Laserdisc release. I forget which year the Laserdisc was, though. Peter Pan debuted in the Masterpiece Collection in 1998. Pretty much uses some of the same cover artwork components from the 1990 cover, but with a different background. Not the London background. Lady and the Tramp came to the Walt Disney Masterpiece Collection in 1998 as well. Now, interestingly, Lady and the Tramp, along with Sleeping Beauty, there were two Masterpiece Edition VHSs. These were the regular ones, and then there were the letterboxed widescreen ones. I would like to get my hands on those one day and add them to my collection, because that was the way those films were originally shot. Lady and the Tramp in CinemaScope, and Sleeping Beauty in Technorama 70mm. And we got the 1999, by the way, Sleeping Beauty 97. We have the 1999 VHS of 101 Dalmatians. Again, these pillars. Sword in the Stones, 1994 Masterpiece Edition. Reuses the Classics cover from '89. And Mary Poppins Masterpiece VHS from '94 uses the late '80s standalone cover that we just saw a few minutes ago. Again, with some modifications. You could tell that they photoshopped or something, or it's kind of clunky looking when you look at it very closely. It's the Masterpiece edition of The Jungle Book from 1997. It's actually the same exact cover as the '91 release, but with a fancy gold border around it. They could come up with, I wonder, like, they came up with new artwork for Bambi and for Sleeping Beauty that same year. I wonder why they didn't for Jungle Book. The 1996 release of the Aristocats. This was actually the very first video release of the film here in North America. I believe it had debuted on video earlier in the UK and some European territories. Bedknobs and Broomsticks, 1994 Masterpiece release, takes its artwork from the late '80s VHS release as well. But I don't have that, as you can see. Robin Hood repeats the 1991 cover for the '94 release. That's the other way you could tell these are from '94. They have this, the full Masterpiece Collection logo at the top of the artwork. However, later releases, like I believe the 1997 release of Mary Poppins does this, the 1998 release of Melody Time does this. They brought back that heading that they had used for these '94 releases. I think it's kind of fascinating. The '96 release of The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Interestingly, Walt Disney's is in a serif font as opposed to the regular Disney font. I guess they wanted to make it look like make it look book-like. And that would be the second ever release of the film on video. First being in 1981. Here we got The Rescuers. This is the 1999 release. And before anyone asks, this is the corrected version. Everybody knows that story by now. Alright, now we're on the bottom shelf. But don't despair, that doesn't mean anything's inferior down here. It's just, you know, the '98 release of The Black Cauldron came in chromium FX packaging. Look at that. Wow. This is so satisfying to look at. Yeah, look at them details. Shiny. And we got, that's the first ever video release of Oliver and Company from 1996. It was never a Classics edition in America. The '98 release of The Little Mermaid. The '95 release of The Lion King, the original VHS release. Pocahontas, released on VHS in 1996. Hunchback of Notre Dame, released on VHS in 1997. And Milan, released on VHS in 1999. So after Masterpiece Edition, we kind of do a repeat of the Classics first, then live action and animated standalones. So we do it here again, Masterpiece, and then live action and animated standalones. And of course, we got some Pixar pictures in there too. I'm going to start off, I believe this Incredible Journey VHS was from 1997. The Incredible Journey, of course, was remade in the early 90s into Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey. This is the original Walt Disney film, The Incredible Journey. The original VHS release of Toy Story in 1996, back when Disney marketed it as Disney's Toy Story, and the little Pixar logo there on the bottom right-hand corner, as if they didn't, you know. But then later, they'd all be branded Disney, Pixar, Walt Disney Pictures Presents a Pixar Film. A Pixar Animation Studios film, let's be specific here. James and the Giant Peach, This was the second collaboration of Henry Selick and Tim Burton after The Nightmare Before Christmas. Sadly, it did not repeat the success of that film. I suppose it did much better on video, though. It seems like everybody I knew had seen it. James and the Giant Peach VHS came out in '96. That was later in the year that the film had debuted in theaters. The VHS of Flubber, which is from 1998, because the movie, if I remember correctly, was a fall 1997 release. This is actually a Canadian copy. How it got to my town, I do not know. Then the 1999 VHS of A Bug's Life. The original VHS release of A Bug's Life came in 5 collectible covers, and I believe the Hopper one was the rarest. And then, of course, we got the 2000 VHS release of Toy Story 2. And then we got the 2001 VHS release of Dinosaur. By the time Dinosaur came to video, the Masterpiece line was over. Dinosaur back then was not considered part of the Disney Animated Features canon, though. In 2008, it was added to the canon. Some people feel it was for the sole purpose of making Tangled the 50th film. But it was a collaboration between Walt Disney Feature Animation's CGI arm and the Secret Lab, formerly DreamQuest, I believe. And the 2001 VHS of The Emperor's New Groove. Again, standalone. There's no Masterpiece line by then, and it wasn't in the Gold Classic Collection line. The Gold Classic Collection line was over by the time The Emperor's New Groove came to video. Planet, again, another standalone release. This one's also a Canadian copy. It's a little beat up there. And then probably my latest VHS. It's a Finding Nemo. The Finding Nemo VHS came out in fall 2003, not too long after the movie opened in the summer. The reason I have Finding Nemo on VHS, even though I have the DVD of it, the original DVD release, is because at the time I didn't have a DVD player in my room. So I asked for the VHS for Christmas so I could watch it in my room whenever I wanted to. Didn't have to wait for any family movie night to put it on the DVD, but then later I was able to watch DVDs in my room, so, but still, it's nice to have. And then we got, these are like sort of 2 separate live-action lines here. This one was the Walt Disney Film Classics collection, and Walt Disney Film Classics had like a couple of, how should I put it, like, it had its own individual lines, like lines within lines, and this one was the Great American Legends series, and this was for Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. I believe this VHS was from '97. My memory can be a little bit rusty when it comes to these. And then the Walt Disney Collection VHS of Old Yeller, which I believe I'm going to say either 2002 or 2004. Now here's that Pinocchio tape I was talking about. The 1999 release, even though it's for the 60th anniversary, Pinocchio was a 1940 film, so it was off by a year. This was originally going to be a Masterpiece Collection edition because some of the early printings open with the Masterpiece logo. And also, the graphic that they use for the side really resembles the Walt Disney Masterpiece Collection logo. So it's pretty clear that it was going to be a Masterpiece release until they ended the Masterpiece line. So we got that. Tarzan, the 2000 video release, sports that same graphic on the side. And now we move on to the Walt Disney Gold Classic Collection, which ran from 2000 to early 2001. We got Fun and Fancy Free, Alice in Wonderland. The 2000 release of Alice in Wonderland just literally reuses the 1999 Masterpiece VHS cover. but this time with the Gold Classic Collection banner on the top, and then the Rescuers down under. These were all released in 2000. And there's one up here. Toy Story got the Gold Classic Collection treatment. The Gold Classic Collection, much like the Masterpiece Collection, didn't function the same way as the Classics line. The Classics line was for the single-story animated features and Fantasia, but the Masterpiece line included the package features and even live-action animation hybrids. The Gold Classic Collection included animated classics made by Walt Disney Feature Animation, along with 2 Pixar films, obviously Toy Story and A Bug's Life, and even Disney Movie Tune films like A Goofy Movie, and even direct-to-video films like I believe Pocahontas 2 was in the line, and there was also Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas. That was in the line as well. It was a very bizarre line. But yeah, Toy Story was in the Gold Classic Collection and literally reuses the same cover as the 96 release. So we're done with this whole bookcase. So next up we have 2 special sections here. One made from a old cardboard box, and another from a seal test milk crate. And in this shelf are mostly foreign language editions. There's a sole exception there. And above the foreign language editions are some beta tapes that aren't on the other shelves. So I'm actually going to start off with the beta tapes. This is the black clamshell of the Sword in the Stone. Remember in the previously I showed off the VHS, which was in the white case, but this is the one in the black case. I only have it on beta. And that's the 86 reissued Dumbo. There's actually a the label, it's actually a variant of what you'd usually expect. And then we got Splash, the original release on beta. There's also a black case version of Splash. That was the first Touchstone film. And the VHS, I believe, came out in late '84. So let's put those back. So we got the French-Canadian VHS of Dumbo, French-Canadian VHS of Bambi, French-Canadian VHS of Alice in Wonderland, French-Canadian VHS of The Sword in the Stone, and the French-Canadian VHSs of both Rescuers films. Of course, they're the classics, or as it's known over there, Les Classiques. So there's some differences there. And then I got one French-Canadian Masterpiece edition for The Hunchback of Notre Dame. One Spanish language classics release, Alice in Wonderland, and then 2 Espanol Masterpiece Collection editions, 101 Dalmatians, which I showed in a previous Disney VHS video, and of course the Lion King. And in here, this appears to be the 1998 Masterpiece release of Hercules, but inside, it's something different. It's the For Your Consideration tape for the Oscars. The song Go the Distance was nominated that year, so there's a 3-minute VHS. It's that sequence from the movie, and somehow it got into a Masterpiece cover. And while we're at it, I'll show you what's special about this Dumbo beta tape here. I'll just move that aside so it doesn't fall off. It has a standard Walt Disney home video label. And of course, down here are some additional variants, as I have called them for years, or just, variations. This Pinocchio VHS here is a later printing of the original '85 release, in that it opens with, it doesn't have the Black Cauldron trailer in the previews. The first pressings of that release have the Black Cauldron trailer in the previews. This is an early pressing of the 1985 release of Dumbo, in that after the spinning Neon Mickey Walt Disney Home Video logo, we see a blue MPAA rating screen, a silent Buena Vista logo, and then the start of the film, and at the end is the Walt Disney and You promo. That's different from the one that's up in the main bookcase. It doesn't have the G rating or the Buena Vista logo. And this is the 1987 reissue of the 85 release. And that the VHS tag on the bottom is gone, and that the stock number is different. It was 24V previously. It's like that on the 86 release, but on this 87 release, it's 24024. This was one of the first ones I actually got for my collection that wasn't already, like, how do I put it, like, I had a lot of Disney VHS tapes when I was young, but then I really started collecting them in earnest in 2005, and this was one of the first that I added to my collection that I hadn't had before. And then this is also the 89 cover of Dumbo, but inside is the 1991 VHS. And they updated the tape master and whatnot, and also gave it a new silkscreen label, although there were some with a sticker label too. 87 reissue of the 86 Alice release, and a 1994 reissue of that release where they changed the heading to Walt Disney's Classic, and the tape inside is different too. It has an ink label. It's the 91 VHS inside. Peter Pan, the difference between this one and the other one is that the tape is different. The label is different. And we got Lady and the Tramp. Also a label difference with the videotape. I don't really need to take these out, honestly. 101 Dalmatians, the difference with this one. This is actually the one I had since I was a kid. When it ends, and Disney VHS collectors will know this well, it doesn't show the Buena Vista logo twice, like the earlier pressings do. Sword in the Stone 87 release, with the heading changed to Walt Disney's Sword in the Stone as opposed to Disney's Sword in the Stone. Same deal here, 89 Sword in the Stone cover, 1991 VHS inside. This is a label variation. This Jungle Book has a sticker label, VHS inside of it, as opposed to the other one in the white bookcase, which has the ink label. There's a small label variation with this Great Mouse Detective release, and this Rescue Roost Under release doesn't have previews at the beginning and swaps the red-orange FBI warning, the anti-piracy screens, for the green ones. So I got this new shelf recently, and I put the rest of my collection in it. Originally it was in a bunch of scattered cardboard boxes, kind of like this layout here, but I got this specifically to make my organizing my collection easier. So there's cardboard slipcover cases, tapes without cases, some extra classics and masterpiece editions, some non-Disney titles, and then beta tapes.